The Mandarin phrase hit me like ice water. Conjurga yuchen de neuron. Lanjoburi do nabawa. Look at this stupid woman. She can't even hold a wine glass properly. David's voice. My husband. Laughing with his guest across our dining room table. I kept my face blank. Set down the Chateau Margaux, $2,000 a bottle, David's choice, and smooth my and tailor dress. The one he'd approved this morning with a dismissive wave. Mr. Chun, David's potential investor from Shanghai, smiled politely. Didn't translate. Probably assumed I didn't understand. I didn't react. Not yet. But let me take you back to where this really started. 3 months ago, when David brought home the deal that would change everything. 3 months earlier, Vanessa, we need to talk about the Parker pitch. David stood in the doorway of our home office, not quite entering. Like I was a secretary, not his wife of 7 years. I looked up from my laptop, from the quarterly reports I'd been analyzing for Chin Industries. The reports David thought I was too simple to understand. What about it? You can't be there. Chin specifically requested no. Distractions. Distractions. He met me. David, I've been to every investor meeting for 3 years. This is different. Chin is traditional. Old school. He expects. David adjusted his Hermes tie. He expects a certain dynamic. Successful man, supportive wife. You can come to dinner after, smile, look pretty. But the business discussion? That's above your pay grade. Above my pay grade. I'd built the financial model that saved his company during the 2020 crash. I'd identified the patent loophole that made his flagship product viable. I'd done it quietly, presenting everything as suggestions that David could claim as his own insights. Because that's what you do when you love someone. You make them look good, right? Fine, I said. I'll stay home. He smiled, that relieved smile of a man who'd expected a fight and won too easily. Thanks, babe. You're the best. He left without asking what I was working on. The Parker pitch happened without me. David returned home triumphant, scotch on his breath, swagger in his step. We got it. Shin loved the presentation. Loved me. He's investing $20 million. David pulled me into a hug that felt more like a victory lap than affection. This is it, Vanessa. We're about to be rich. We were already rich. David's company, Technova Solutions, had been valued at $40 million last year. Our Bellevue home cost $3 million. His car collection another $500,000. But David didn't mean money. He meant status, recognition, power. That's wonderful, I said. What happens now? Due diligence, paperwork. Then Chun comes here for a final dinner. For weeks. He wants to know our character before signing. David poured himself another scotch. It's a Chinese thing. Family values, trust, all that. I'll prepare something special. Just keep it simple, okay? Chun doesn't need to see you trying too hard. He patted my shoulder. You're great at the supportive wife thing. Stick to that. The supportive wife thing. I smiled and nodded and went upstairs to our bedroom. Then I opened my laptop and did what I'd been doing for 3 months, monitoring Chin Industries from the inside. Because here's what David didn't know. I wasn't Vanessa Carter from Iowa, community college graduate, former bank teller who'd gotten lucky marrying up. I was Vanessa Zhang Carter, daughter of Zhang Wei, majority shareholder of Chin Industries, and 3 dozen other companies across Asia. Granddaughter of Zhang Li, who'd built a manufacturing empire from nothing. I'd been in America since college, MIT. Actually, not community college. Double major in computer science and business. I'd met David at a tech conference, fallen genuinely in love with his ambition and charm. I'd also made a choice. I wanted to be loved for myself, not my family's money. So I'd used my American name, simplified my background, let him believe what he wanted to believe. For 7 years, it had worked. David loved me, or loved who he thought I was. But lately, love had curdled into contempt. The suggestions I made were met with eye rolls. The business questions I asked were adorable. When I corrected his Mandarin pronunciation at a restaurant, he'd been practicing for Chun, badly, he'd snapped. I don't need Chinese lessons from my wife. So I'd stopped offering, started watching, listening, and I'd call my father. Baba, I'd said, I need information on Chin Industries. Specifically, their due diligence process. My father's silence spoke volumes. Vanessa, does David know who you are? No. And Chun, does he know? I don't think so. Different last name, I stay out of publicity. Another pause. What are you planning? I'm not sure yet. But David's changing. Becoming someone I don't recognize. I need to know if this deal is legitimate. And if it isn't, I need to protect him from himself. Or protect yourself from him, my father said quietly. I didn't answer. Shen arrived 4 weeks later at 7 p.m. exactly. 50s, shark suit, calculating eyes. He bowed slightly to David, nodded to me with polite disinterest. Mrs. Carter. Lovely home. Thank you, Mr. Chun. Please sit. I'd spent 3 days preparing. Peking duck, hand-pulled noodles, mappa tofu, soup dumplings. Traditional dishes, perfectly executed. David had watched me cook with amusement. Wow, you really went all out. Didn't know you could do Chinese food. I'd smiled and said nothing. Now, as Chun tasted the duck, his expression shifted. Surprise, then pleasure. This is exceptional, Mrs. Carter. Where did you learn? David answered before I could. YouTube, probably. She's good at following recipes. I kept my face serene. Poured tea. The dinner continued smoothly. David dominated conversation, talking about market projections, expansion plans, his vision for Technova's future. Shen nodded, asked occasional questions, took small bites of food. I played my role, smiled, refilled glasses, said nothing unless directly addressed. Then David's phone buzzed. He checked it, frowned. Sorry, I need to grab some documents from my office. The updated contracts. Be right back. He left. The dining room felt suddenly larger, quieter. Shen looked at me. Really looked, for the first time all evening. Your soup dumplings, he said carefully, are exactly like the ones from Jia Jia Tang Bao in Shanghai. Same thickness of wrapper, same ratio of broth to filling. Very specific technique. Thank you. That technique is not on YouTube. I met his eyes. Said nothing. Shen leaned back in his chair. Tell me, Mrs. Carter, do you enjoy being underestimated? The question hung in the air like smoke. Sometimes, I said slowly, it's useful. Useful, he repeated. Then, switching to Mandarin, Ni shi sai. Who are you? Before I could answer, David returned. Arms full of folders, smile wide. Got them? Okay. Shun, let me walk you through your wife's cooking is remarkable. Shen interrupted, still in English. Does she have professional training? David laughed. Vanessa? No, she's just naturally good at domestic stuff. It's her thing. Her thing, Chen echoed. Something flickered in his eyes. The conversation shifted back to business. Market analysis, profit margins, growth trajectories. David spoke with confidence, too much confidence. Making promises he couldn't keep, projecting numbers that didn't add up. I'd seen the real financials. Technova was stable, profitable even. But not the rocket ship David portrayed. He was exaggerating, embellishing, constructing a fantasy version of his company. Shen listened. Asked questions. David answered with polished lies. Then Shen switched to Mandarin. Mida gongsu suozu wudui. Wakanwa jinshu balgao. Your company numbers are wrong. I've seen the real reports. David blinked. Smiled. Sorry, my Mandarin isn't quite. He says your numbers seem impressive. I translated smoothly. Line from my husband. Chen's eyebrows rose. He looked at me with sharp interest. Yes, David agreed eagerly. The numbers are impressive. We're projected to triple revenue within 18 months. Bukunom. Chen said flatly. Impossible. He's very excited about the projection. I translated. Tell him, David said, leaning forward. Tell him in Chinese that we've secured patents in 12 countries. That our tech is revolutionary. I switched to Mandarin, speaking directly to Chun. My husband believes he's secured patents in 12 countries. In reality, 3 are still pending, 2 were rejected. The tech is solid but not revolutionary. It's an incremental improvement on existing systems. Chen's face remained neutral, but his eyes gleamed. David beamed, thinking I was delivering his sales pitch. And tell him, David continued, that I'm the kind of leader who built this from nothing. Self-made. No handouts. In Mandarin, I said, my husband is talented but arrogant. He didn't build this from nothing. His initial funding came from his parents' trust fund. He doesn't know I'm aware of this. Samagwan yu ta de qizi. Chen asked, what about his wife? He thinks she's decorative. I replied in Mandarin. Useful for entertaining. Not capable of understanding business. 这是真的吗? Is that true? No. David was watching us, smiling, completely oblivious. This is great. Vanessa, you sound so fluent. When did you get so good at Chinese? I've been practicing, I said in English. The lie sat between us like a stone. Shen poured himself more tea. His hands were steady, but his expression had changed. Calculating, almost amused. Mr. Carter, he said carefully, I appreciate your ambition, but I must conduct final due diligence. Review all documents personally. Of course, anything you need, including financial records, personal and business. I need to understand the complete picture. Something flickered across David's face. Worry, quickly hidden. Personal records? It's standard for my investments. Surely you have nothing to hide. No, of course not. I'll have everything sent over. But I knew what Shen would find. The same things I discovered 3 weeks ago, going through David's office while he was at a conference. The gambling debts. 200,000, owed to people who didn't take late payments well. The second mortgage on our house, taken without my knowledge, technically legal since the house was in his name alone. The money borrowed from Technova's operating funds to pay personal expenses. David wasn't just arrogant. He was desperate. This deal wasn't about growth, it was about survival. And he planned to use Chen's investment to dig himself out of a hole. Chen stood. Thank you for a lovely evening, Mrs. Carter. Your hospitality has been illuminating. The pleasure was mine. He shook David's hand. I'll be in touch within the week. After he left, David pulled me into a hug. You were perfect. Did you see how impressed he was? This deal is happening, Vanessa. We're set. I hugged him back. Felt his heart racing with excitement and relief. David, I said carefully, is everything okay? With the company? With everything. He stiffened. What? Of course. What? No reason. You just seem stressed lately. I'm fine. Better than fine. He kissed my forehead. Thanks for playing along tonight. I know all the business talk is boring for you. It's not boring. Well, either way, you don't need to worry about it. That's my job. Your job is to be the beautiful, charming wife. And you nailed it. He went upstairs, whistling. I stood in the dining room, surrounded by the remnants of dinner. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I recognized, Chen's assistant. Mr. Chen requests a private meeting. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., Four Seasons Hotel downtown. Come alone. He knows who you are. My hands trembled as I typed back. I'll be there. The Four Seasons suite overlooked Elliott Bay. Chen stood by the window, back straight, hands clasped. Miss Zhang, not Mrs. Carter. Please sit. I remained standing. How long have you known? Since before I contacted your husband. Your father and I have been business associates for 30 years. When David Carter approached me seeking investment, I recognized the company name. You'd mentioned it in passing at a Shanghai conference 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I'd been on a rare visit home, attending functions with my father. David had no idea I'd even left the country. I told him it was a girl's trip to California. So this was never about investing in Technova. On the contrary, the technology is solid. Your husband's management is adequate. Shen turned to face me. But I wanted to understand why Zhang Wei's daughter was living as a suburban housewife, letting herself be dismissed and diminished by a mediocre man. The words stung because they were true. I love him, I said quietly. Do you? Or did you love who you thought he was? I didn't answer. Chen opened his briefcase, pulled out a folder. David Carter has embezzled $1.3 million from his company. Gambling debts total $280,000. He's taken 3 mortgages on properties, including your home, without your knowledge or consent. I know. Do you also know he's been meeting with other investors? Presenting the same fictional projections, hoping someone bites before I do. He plans to take multiple investments, pay off his debts, and report the excess as company assets. That's fraud. Yes. I sat down then, the weight of it crushing. The dinner last night, Chen continued. I wanted to see how far he'd go. If he'd claim credit for work you did. If he lied directly while you translated. If he'd acknowledge your intelligence. He did none of those things. No, he did worse. Chen handed me his phone. A recording. From last night. David's voice. Conjurga Yuchen de Niron. Lanzhou Buri, do na Bowen. Look at this stupid woman. She can't even hold a wine glass properly. The Mandarin phrase from dinner. But there was more. Pa fen you yong, dan bu hong ming. Wang mei de jia ting jiu fu. She's useful, but not smart. Perfect housewife material. Jen's voice, carefully neutral. Ni qie ding ta bu dong zhouwen ma? Are you certain she doesn't understand Chinese? David, laughing, Vanessa? 绝对不会. 她连我的工作都不懂. Vanessa? Absolutely not. She doesn't even understand my work. The recording ended. I sat in silence. The Elliott Bay waters below looked gray and cold. What happens now? I asked. That depends on you, Miss Sean. Your father sent me here with 2 offers. Shin pulled out 2 envelopes. Set them on the glass table between us. Envelope 1. I invest in Technova. 20 million. But with conditions, full audit, oversight, and David reports to a board that includes you and your father's representatives. His fraud is exposed privately. He repays what he stole, but keeps his position under supervision. You get half the house in a formal legal amendment. Your marriage continues if you choose. And envelope 2? I walk away. Your father's lawyers file for divorce on your behalf, citing fraud and financial abuse. David loses everything: the company, the house, his reputation. Technova is sold to cover debts. You return to Shanghai. Join Zhang Industries as you were always meant to. 2 paths. 2 futures. My father wants me to choose the second one, I said. Your father wants you to choose whatever brings you peace. I looked at the envelopes. Thought about 7 years of marriage. The good years, when David had been passionate and driven, but kind. When we built something together. And the slow erosion. The condescension. The dismissal. The contempt. When did it change? I asked. When did he stop seeing me? Perhaps he never did. Perhaps you loved the person you hoped he'd become, and he loved the reflection you showed him. My phone buzzed. David, where are you? Thought we could celebrate last night over breakfast. Celebrate his lies. His fraud. His casual cruelty in a language he thought I didn't understand. I picked up envelope 2. Tell my father I'm ready to come home. The divorce papers were served at David's office the next morning. By noon, the fraud investigation was official, initiated by an anonymous tip that included detailed financial evidence. By evening, David called, screaming, begging, accusing. You knew? This whole time you know. Yes. Vanessa, please. I can explain everything. The debts, they're not. I was going to fix it. With Chen's money? Using fraud. Silence. Then, who are you? The woman I married wouldn't. The woman you married, I interrupted, never existed. You created her. Needed her to be small so you could feel big. That's not true. I love you. Me Iwama. I asked in perfect Mandarin. Do you love me? More silence. He was putting it together now. The dinner. The translation. The conversation he thought I hadn't understood. Oh God, he whispered. The woman who couldn't hold a wine glass properly. I continued in Mandarin. The woman too stupid to understand your work. She was MIT educated. Fluent in 4 languages. Managed a portfolio worth more than your company before she turned 25. Vanessa. My name is Vanessa Jean Carter. My father is Jean Wei. My family owns the factories that supply half the components in your products. I switched back to English. I spent 7 years making myself smaller so you could feel bigger. I'm done. I hung up. 6 months later, I stood in my father's Shanghai office, reviewing quarterly reports for Zhang Industries. Vice President of International Operations, my official title. Technova had been sold to a competitor. David had taken a lower-level position at a startup, bankruptcy discharged, reputation destroyed. He tried to contact me once, 3 months in. An email. I'm sorry. For everything. I didn't see you. I should have. I'm trying to be better. I'd read it twice. Then archived it without responding. Because here's what I learned. You can't love someone into seeing your worth. They either see it or they don't. David never did. He saw a useful prop, a supporting character in his story. My father knocked on my office door. Busy. Always. He smiled. Entered. Set a folder on my desk. Shen Industries is acquiring a tech firm in Seattle. They need someone who understands both markets. Someone who speaks the language, literally and figuratively. I opened the folder. Looked at the company name. A small firm. Ethical leadership. Strong fundamentals. Nothing like David's chaos. You want me to lead the integration? I want you to run their North American division. Build something real. He paused. You spent 7 years hiding your light. Time to let it shine. That night, I stood on my apartment balcony, overlooking Shanghai's glittering skyline. The city I'd left to find love in America. I'd found love, but I'd lost myself. Now, I was building something better. Not revenge. Revenge would have been destroying David completely, and I'd let him keep his dignity. This was justice. For every woman told she's not smart enough, not capable enough, not worthy of being seen. I'd been all three. I'd just been waiting for the right moment to prove it. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Proud of you, daughter. Not for leaving him, for remembering who you are. I smiled. Typed back. I never forgot. I was just speaking too quietly for the wrong person to hear. Below, Shanghai pulsed with light and possibility. I'd spent 7 years translating myself into someone smaller. Now I was finally speaking my own language. And this time, everyone was listening.